All right. Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, what's up, Dragon? It's good to see you, my guy. Hey, we're gonna do some. We're gonna work on Spelljammer tonight. We've already published this book on DMsGuild, but we're updating it for 2024 rules, and we're basically going page by page through the book, looking at what edits we need to make and what changes have happened mechanically in 5e from 2014 to 2024. And we're basically breaking the book up into chunks of text. So on Mondays and Thursday nights, we're essentially just grabbing a section of the book and then breaking it down. For those that want to play along, well, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications of when we're live in the future. Let me fix my screen here so you can see what we're working on here. There you go. That should pop here there we go. And my sound should probably be okay. I'm going to just check in on that real quick here. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, cool. So let's drop down here. If you check in the description down here, the actual book that we published on DMsGuild is right here, Spelljammer Combat Exploration on DMsGuild. It has, for those that want to read along, it's 100% free preview. God bless you if you buy it. There's over 100 tokens and ship assets and like all the stuff that you need for Light as Araxis. It's all included in here. The book basically converts ship combat into the 5e game mechanics that your characters use as though your characters were the ship. So groups of characters can operate weapons together, and the pilot is essentially wild shaping into the ship to be able to operate on at the 50 or 500 foot scale of battle. And so the past two episodes that we have done this, we basically broke down how ships work, combat mechanics, the roles that characters can play, and how they can use their action economy to operate as a team or individually on like their own little fighter craft, and to be able to use your normal 5e action economy at these larger scales. And right on, man. Thanks. Really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. This was a pure joy and love to create. And for those that this is the first time looking at it, if you've picked up the 5e Spelljammer and you were looking for more, this is attempting to provide as much rulings, like rules for you to be able to operate Spelljammer using the 5e game engine, so that you as a DM have all the information that you can either choose to use or not, but you now have a basis for making rulings on how you would want to conduct your campaign, like whether you want to use Astral Sea and how you want to be able to navigate that. The different roles, obviously, like ships and fleet combat is an option that you can either lean into or ignore depending on how you want to run your campaign. Mega-sized creatures and all the mechanics that work inside of this book are, we basically converted Light as Araxis using these mechanics so that you can see like a live exercise of how these rules can be implemented in your game. I really like making rules that I, as a DM, want in my campaign. This was a lot of fun running. We used these mechanics in Descent into Avernus with the Infernal War Machines as well, which was a ton of fun for us to have like little fighter craft that were basically like hovercraft that were skimming across the ground. And once we started taking Hell Wasps and basically Dr. Zhivagoing their wings onto the Infernal War Machines that the characters were taking command of and basically taking from Mad Max gangs, they were able to VTOL and then be able to fly around, and converted like Azariel's blade into a spell jamming ship as well that would attack the city. And so we were able to use all these mechanics and the fleet mechanics and stuff to be able to fight demons climbing up the chains, and it was really fun. A lot of fun. So all this art and like all these tokens and stuff for the characters in Light as Araxis, these are all assets that are included when you purchase the thing, as well as like the system maps. Here's the dungeon map that we created at the 500 foot scale. So if you go and check out the dilapidated nautiloid ship during chapter 2, while you're exploring, the asteroids shift around, and you get basically lost inside this asteroid dungeon. And these are the different points of like you have to make pilot checks to be able to navigate through these like doorways to prevent taking damage to your craft as the asteroids are shifting around and colliding with each other. Meanwhile, you're being hunted by Neogi fighter craft spiderlings, and then there's a night spider that's the carrier mothership that's basically prowling through here looking for you while the spiderling fighter craft are trying to keep eyes on you. And the fighter craft are only 40 feet in size compared to the 200-foot frame of the night spider. So like these little gaps in between asteroids, you can navigate through these as difficult terrain and fighter craft. So the enemy Neogi are able to maneuver pretty freely around this dungeon, while the night spider has to navigate these larger space and make pilot checks just like your characters do in the ships that you're on. And if you can find your way to the exit, that's when you find the patrol ships from Rock of Brawl, and depending on the condition of your ship, you can just basically turn around, take command of those 2 other ships alongside yours. Now you've got 3 ships against 1 night spider and whatever fighter craft might be remaining, and you can basically flip the script on them and take out the pirates and then salvage their ship and bring it back to Rock of Brawl. That will provide plenty of money for you to be able to pick up the Last Breath and potentially other ships alongside it if you wanted to. So I leveled up a few weeks ago and look at updated create Spelljammer helm. Oh, right on, man. Awesome. I really appreciate the quick navigation bar at the bottom of each of the pages, by the way. Thank you. I love the Eberron adventure that we're creating. We're going to make a navigation ribbon down here as well. It's just such a fun thing to add in, and it's just a way to have some icons and obviously the corresponding combat chapter. You see the icon at the top of the page, so it's just a quality of life thing that we were able to implement. And since it's a digital medium, why not lean into the fact that everything can be hyperlinked and to be able to just quickly navigate around the document, as well as obviously we have the table of the contents. So we've gotten to page 36, and we're going to start in with squadrons and fleet combat today. And you guys are certainly welcome to read along in this. I'm going to grab this folder here, and this is the Spelljammer subclasses. This is going to be another supplement that once we've updated 2024, we'll start looking at building out this book and publishing it. But it's a bunch of subclasses for all the 13 classes that currently exist inside of the game, including the Artificer, to lean into these Spelljammer combat and exploration mechanics that we built. So like this, like the Artificer creates siege weapons, and all the spells assist with like operating and firing siege weapons, and your ability to create siege weapons and eventually create a siege minion, which is like an animated or like an awakened siege weapon that basically acts as a sidekick while you have it summoned. We know that from previous conversations that like the ballista, for example, weighs like 250 pounds, I think, which is well within the weight of a Tensor's floating disc. So even if you aren't running Spelljammer specifically, you can utilize these siege engine mechanics. And if you want it, as long as you have 10-foot wide corridors, you can just basically summon a ballista, put it onto a floating disc, and just have it float along behind you. And wait for a big bet, like, hey, here comes an ogre. Well, let's just drop your tripod, aim, and just take out an ogre with 40-10, it's D4 times 10 damage that you're dealing, or like drag ballistas down into a dragon's lair. It's a lot of fun stuff. So we have all these different subclasses, like the barbarian pilot, using your rage features to really lean into making your ship indestructible as part of your raging feature while you're piloting the ship, whether it's a vessel with the whole crew on it, or if you're just navigating individual fighter craft. Your barbarian's able to utilize like all of your rage abilities to make your ship become like really, really durable. And you can use like brutal piloting, like a reckless attack. You can forgo advantage on one of your ship melee weapon attacks during a turn, and if you do, then it's considered a critical hit, which is big damage once around while you're piloting. These ships have hundreds of hit points, so allowing your your barbarian to lean into crit hits like that. It's well within the curve of what the rules can do. So all these things are just like really fun ways to be able to change your character, really leaning into Spelljammer as your center focused. And of course, once we get this completed, so yeah, you can see here, you can drop in here, but at the end of the document, this is where we're putting all of our notes. And we've already updated here. Wait, no. Here's the document. Right, so here's the actual document that we've been updating. And you can see down here, for example, we updated the ship, pre-generated ship rules, and basically added in a bunch of all the mechanics. It was Sean Wayne, one of our friends on our channel, who's over on my Discord, which is linked down below, said, hey, I know the turtle ship, you can like seal it up and it can swim under, like it can fly underwater, but you don't have any mechanics about that. So we made sure to implement rules for ships that are capable of sealing themselves in to be able to navigate underwater as well. So that was like a really easy lift for us to be able just to add a little bit more. And obviously we modified the artwork that we have in the book to accommodate that. And since I did all the artwork and I did all the page layouts and I did all the writing and design work with this, with the help of Ukulele Bard to help with the mechanics and the math of it all, and Adam Hancock was our editor. But for the most part, all the creative aspects and construction of it was what we pretty much did here on stream. So just like we're doing with the Eberron book. So I was able to go in and make these modifications on the fly. So going back to the chapter here, and sorry, I'm only slightly paying attention to the chat channel down here. That's because I don't see so good. It's really hard for me to just kind of drift my eye down here. Come on, buddy. I need you to be smaller. How can I resize this? Can I refresh? Oh, come on. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. Thank you. Reset zoom. There we go. God bless the buttons. Okay, I can make that a little bit bigger so it's a little easier for me to read. There we go. Happy to have the extra spell rules. Oh yeah, for expanding the range to amplify spells. Once we get done with the combat chapter, we'll be getting into spell casting and updating all that stuff as well. So, but yeah, it's amplifying spells. It was a delicate procedure, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out, and it's applicable obviously beyond just Spelljammer itself. But okay, so here's where we're actually making changes to the changelog. We've obviously, like I just showed, we already updated all the rules for chapter 1 with creating ships, and now we're going to continue. Let me fix this screen here. Yeah, anyone can pilot ships. If that wasn't made clear, I must have done something wrong. Let's go back to the beginning of the chapter. Spelljamming helms. A spelljamming helm is usually a chair you can sit in, but a helm can be described as anything attached to the ship that you can stand or sit on, such as a dais or a podium. While on or within 5 feet of a helm you're focusing on, you can pilot the helm's ship as detailed in the combat exploration chapters below under that role. At any time, you can see and hear what's happening on and around the ship as though you were standing in a location. Multiple creatures can focus on the same helm, but only one creature can take a reaction each turn, as detailed in the ship rules section below. Helms are also orrery stations, as detailed in the additional equipment chapter below. SAIS, Spelljammer's Adventures in Space by 5e, Wizards, requires characters to attune to spelljamming helms. However, this prevents a character from spontaneously jumping onto a fighter craft to fly into this battle, or like jumping onto a Pegasus to ride. So this requirement has been replaced with focus. Many options in the supplement require a creature to focus on a device and to use them. For example, an orrery station, a spelljamming helm, an eldritch cannon, they all require focus. To remain focused on a device, you must always occupy the same space or just be within 5 feet of the device. But there's no limit to how many devices a creature can focus on while within range of each. You can use separate actions or bonus actions to focus on each device. You can focus on while maintaining concentration. Class features such as Barbarian's Rage that prevents maintaining concentration don't prevent focus. Otherwise, focus follows the same rules as concentration. And then down here, looking at helms themselves, a major spelljamming helm occupies a 5-foot space and can be attached to any object, a space up to 500 foot square, enchanting the object. The ship can travel between worlds. Wait a second, hold on. Spelljamming, additional equipment. A spelljamming helm is usually a chair. There should be. It's down in the. I think it's down in the rules. So let's go look at rules real quick, and then we'll get into fleet combat. I'm on a tangent already. I'm on a mission to make sure that I did this the way it's supposed to be done. Scuttling ship rolls. Pilot roll. Okay, here we go. Spelljammer's Combat and Exploration removes the requirement of being a spellcaster to pilot a ship. Any creature within 5 feet of a spelljamming helm that focuses on it can assume the pilot role. There you go. Very straightforward. Very, very simple. I want you to, like, if you're a combat team and you've got a 13th level fighter that's taking the helm, he's going to be able to use multiple attacks to use the ship to be able to attack things. So it's literally designed to simulate as much of the 5e, 5-foot scale combat that your characters, your players are already familiar with, and just upping the scale using just some additional combat movement mechanics, and of course the siege weapons and the squadron mechanics of using the proficiency die to determine whether your team is able to automatically reload a weapon or not, so you can make use of multiple attacks. So, but yeah, so I'm glad I was able to find that, and I don't know, maybe the book could be better organized, but it's I try to make it, like, shout that out as much as possible. But I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad that I have this conversation so that you can find all the cool little niches and rules that are inside of this. So we're going to be dealing with squads and squadrons today. So let's just look at the squadron commander mechanics. So you can take command of a squadron with a hold on, let me catch up. I was mixed up with the official stuff. I mean, hey, you know. Right on. So the squadron commander options, as a verbal command, you can take command of ships. As an object interaction, you can basically direct the ships to move, because while you're at an orrery station, you can't move yourself. So that action economy of movement is replaced using object interactions. And then you have actions and bonus actions, reactions, and the attack action. So if you take the attack action, then you can make squadron attacks similar to siege attack rolls. And as a bonus action, you can also issue the order to attack. So your characters always have additional action economy they can use to make attacks with weapons, or since you have the chance of failing your reload before you can attack again, you have this additional action economy that you can reload with. So as an attack, you can issue an order for the squadron to attack, or you can issue an order for the squadron to reload or to ready another attack. Bonus action is move squadron is basically the dash action, disengage, and then readying an action. And then as a bonus action, you can, again, issue an attack, which can either be an attack action or reload. You can issue disengage. You can issue your squadron to ram as a group to make multiple ramming attacks. And as a squad, you can have them work together to try to scuttle a ship, or multiple ships if you're attacking fleet on fleet. And then your reactions is pacing, which is allowing you to, like, if a ship tries to speed up to escape, you can keep up speed with it, so your relative distance remains the same, even though they're increasing speed. That's like the in-combat pursuit mechanic. And then there's actual pursuits where you're able to break away with a pilot check to outdistance them in pacing. But so there's opportunity attacks that you can take as a reaction, obviously, which is if a ship is moving through your area of effect, then you can attack them. And then, again, you can issue the reload order to maximize your weapon action economy. So looking at all those things, scrolling down here to the siege commander role, commanding the siege command role, and then we have the squadron commander role. And so command checks, whether you are acting as a siege commander, issuing orders to individuals that are loading and firing individuals or multiple siege weapons. At the same time, you're increasing the scale to treating an entire ship as basically a floating turret platform that you can have the entire ship issue attacks to damage enemies, right? So and then when you're making these attacks, instead of using your proficiency bonus to add to your attack roll, you're using a proficiency die. And depending on the reload score of your weapons or your fleet determines whether the crew is able to coordinate their actions to ready another attack to automatically fire again when you make another attack action. And as your character gains levels or the CR of creatures increases, their effective rank increases. And that rank is also used to, like, their proficiency, like the skill of a crew can increase in rank, so that the higher rank your crew, the lower your reload score gets. So you can either use like really small pew pew weapons, or you can use bigger weapons with larger reload scores, but higher rank crew that you can purchase or train can increase their reload modifier, so that they're able to like it's really difficult for anything less than, like, you can't, like, a trebuchet is too big. You can't automatically reload a trebuchet as part of an attack action until you get the 3rd rank, because the reload score of a trebuchet is a 7. So you can't roll a d6. You can't roll a 7 on a d6. You have to hit your reload number or higher. The higher rank your crew, the lower the reload number gets. So if a trebuchet with a reload score of 7 is being crewed by a 3rd ranked siege engine team, then they're going to lower that 7 down to 4. And your character needs, you can't command a crew that's a higher rank than your character. So even if you had a 5th ranked crew, if your character is only 9th level, they're effectively only considered 3rd rank, because you don't have the ability to properly command them to maximize their capabilities. So a 9th level character rolling a d8 with a 3rd ranked crew on a trebuchet, you basically can roll a 4 or better on an 8-sided die, and they'll automatically reload that trebuchet. So as your characters gain levels and you get more and more advanced crews working on your ships, it becomes easier for you to belt out larger amounts of damage, because you're going to be hitting your reload score more readily. So you're going to have less time spent reloading weapons, and your crew is just going to fall into the fold and just automatically be able to work these weapons together. So that's the idea that goes on behind that. So I'm going to, let's see. Let's grab that. We'll drop that in here, and then we've got here. I'm going to drop this down here, so it's not in the way. And so yeah, so that's basically some of the basic mechanics of how how you would operate a squadron. So we're going to go down and look at the specific rules. So let's click here to go to our table of contents, and we'll go to our squadron and fleet. So now we're officially getting started finally. So going to our document here, chapter 2 combat, we're going to drop down. Now, these are all things that I still need to update in the rules that we've looked at in the last session. When I have downtime, I can then grab this stuff. And most of my off-camera time is consumed by the Ebron adventure that we've been doing artwork for in the morning. But I'm cataloging this stuff, so when I need to take a mental break from Ebron, I can come in here and I can start implementing these mechanics and updating the document. And I'm not a shapeshifter. There I go. Thank you. Once we have all the rules implemented, then I'll just reload the document and it'll be ready to go for 2024. So I'm a wizard. Right on, my man. And I love this as a thank you. Right on, man. Yeah, super fun. Like, load yourself up with Eldritch Cannons so you can use cantrips and spell slots to be able to do siege damage. Super fun. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm basically just doing a read through. We're currently on page 36 of the document, so you can find it on DMsGuild if you want, or if you don't own your own copy yet. And 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. 40. So it's from 36 to 44. That's 8 pages. And we got about an hour and a half to play, so we should be able to get through these mechanics. But if we have time, we'll go down into maintaining crews and ships to update this information as well. So let's. I'm just doing a read along, and if I find a typo, there are some in here. There were some flaws. So if we find a typo, we'll be able to note that. And if anything jumps out at me is like, wait a second, I think this changed for 2024. Then we'll have an opportunity to go in, look at the language that's in the DMG and the player's handbook, and make updates accordingly as necessary. So, right on, my man. I'm glad you're here. Thanks a lot for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to do a read along. So I'm just going to go ahead and just get into it here and read along. So. Multiple ships can be grouped into squadrons, and multiple squadrons can be grouped into fleets. So a squadron commander can command these ships to move and attack together, similar to how a pilot can move a ship and command multiple ships. I just want to make sure I have all my text here on screen. There. A squadron commander can command these ships to move and attack together, similar to how a pilot can move a ship and command multiple ships to attack simultaneously, similar to how a siege commander can command multiple siege weapons to attack, as detailed in the pilot role section in the siege command role sections up above. If the commander is also the pilot of a ship within the squadron, you can move and attack while the ship is part of the squadron, as well as move and attack independently during the same round if you use your action to do both. So you can pilot a ship and move your ship independently, and then command a squadron either that your ship is inside of, or a separate squadron. Like if you're piloting a Yogi Death Spider, for instance, and you have a squadron of spiderlings that clip onto the belly and then unfurl and then start to attack independently, you can break up your action economy to be able to move your ship, the Night Spider, independently than what you command the swarm of spiderling fighter craft to do. But you can have them all attack as part of the same fleet if you wanted to, for instance. So you can break up your action economy between the different ships that you control. And you can have multiple pilots, you can have multiple siege commanders, multiple squadron commanders, and multiple support characters, just depending on what they're all focusing on and how they decide to use their action economy during their own turn. If the commander is also, similarly, a character aboard a ship with an NPC pilot can use squadron commands to order the pilot to move and attack as a squadron, even though there's only one ship under command. So again, the action economy works the same because you're issuing orders to NPCs to move ships around and to make attacks. You can do that if you are not the actual pilot. So like in Light as Araxis, you can, if you have Pancake piloting, your characters can be co-pilots working alongside Pancake to be able to add additional hit point buffing to the craft, and you can be using your action economy to issue commands to the pilots for them to make multiple attacks with the ship, like with melee weapons, for instance. A commander doesn't need to occupy space with the squadron to command it, but commands cannot be given to a squadron that can't communicate with the commander, which is detailed in the squadron command role section up above, where it describes what different types of spells and devices can be used to communicate with other ships that you can target. So squadrons. Hey Steve, it's good to see you, my guy. Welcome around. Squadrons. So when multiple ships occupy the same square of space, they can be grouped into a squadron. A ship must fully occupy the space to be included. Squadrons are measured by the number of spaces the ships occupy, up to 10. So I'm going to go back real quick and look at the combat chapter to look at spaces that ships occupy. So again, here's the 5-foot scale, right, where characters normally operate and hang out with their siege weapons, or fight brigands and shit that's on deck of your ship. But we also operate at the 50-foot scale, and you can see here this warbird is the largest size fighter craft. It's 50 feet. Anything bigger than 50 feet is no longer considered a craft. It's considered a vessel for mechanics. But anything up to 50 feet in size, a fighter craft can fit inside of one 50-foot square. While this hammerhead ship is 250 feet long, it occupies a 5x5 space. So we're looking at like how many spaces does it occupy. This warbird occupies 1 square, and this hammerhead ship occupies 5. That's effectively 6 squares of space occupied within what could be a single 500-foot square. So this is 250 feet by 250 feet, and you can see that you could have multiple ships basically sharing gravity with each other to operate inside that same space. But if you scale it to the 500-foot scale, that's effectively a 10 by 10 space at the 50-foot scale, or a single 1 by 1 space at the 500-foot scale. So I could have 2 hammerhead ships that each occupy 5 squares of space. I could have both of those working together in tandem as a single squadron operating at the 500-foot scale. I could have 10 warbirds, each occupying a single square at the 50-foot scale. I could have 10 warbirds working together in a single 500-foot square as a squadron of 10 warbirds. And like the Neogi spiderlings are 40 feet in size, so you can effectively have like basically one of those per 50-foot square as well. So that's the idea about how, like, what it means by occupying space. It assumes you already understand that from the combat chapter earlier on. So getting back into it, when multiple ships occupy the same square of space, either at the 50-foot scale because they're small fighter craft, or at the 500-foot scale because they're larger fighter craft, or we're talking about vessels that are larger than 50 feet in size. A ship must fully occupy the space to be included. Squadrons are measured by the number of spaces that they occupy up to 10 squares. Vessels, a squadron of vessels occupy a 500-foot space, with each ship contributing to the total size of the squadron. For example, Scorpion ships are 75 feet long. And if you look at the chart up above, in the pre-generated ships, it occupies a 2x2 space. So 5 Scorpion ships can be grouped as a 10-square squadron. Here's an example of 5 Scorpion ships. You can see here that and these tokens are included in the supplement if you decide to buy it. But this is a 10 square by 10 square at the 50-foot scale, so that's a 500-foot square, right? And then we're looking over here at the 5-foot scale for these Goblin Arrow craft, and they're 15 feet, so they occupy 3 by 3 spaces, right? So craft, a squadron of craft occupies a 50-foot space, with each ship contributing to the total size of the squadron. For example, arrow ships are 15 feet long. Each occupies a 3 by 3 space. 3 arrow ships can be grouped as a 9-square squadron. And because these arrows are 3 by 3, I can't have 4 as a single squadron, because even though I could cram one in here, for the mechanics to work, we can only go up to 10 squares per squadron. If I had 4 aerocraft, I would basically break them up into 2 separate squadrons of 6 squares each, and then I would then command both of those squadrons as a fleet using the same mechanics. Yeah, right on, man. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I love walking through these things. So mixed squadrons. Vessels and craft that occupy the same 500-foot square can contribute to the total size of the squadron. Each squadron of craft counts as a vessel occupying 150-foot square when grouped in a mixed squadron. For example, 9 arrows and 2 scorpions can be grouped as a 7-square mixed squadron, because 9 arrows are obviously occupying a 500-foot space. You can put a shitload of little 15-foot arrows in there, right? So 7 mixed, 9 arrows would be able to combine as basically 3 squadrons, and then the 2 scorpions can group as 9 arrows could be for example 9 blah blah blah. Here we go. The craft of 3 arrows. So we have 1, 2, 3 that count as 3 squares, and then scorpions. We have and then for example, 9 arrows and 2 scorpions can be grouped as a 7 square. There's obviously a lot of open space, but you've got 3 arrows here, you've got 3 arrows here, you've got 3 arrow craft here, and they each count as 1 square, and then 2 squares and 2 squares. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how you get there. And we talk about cramming squadrons into tight space, like squeezing into tight formations. But this is just the general mechanics of how it works, right? This is allowing ships a lot of room to be able to maneuver while they're operating inside of a squadron, even though you could cram them together in a much more confined space. Which is removing, and then we talk about removing ships from squadrons. So if a ship leaves the space occupied by the squadron, either fully or partially, it no longer contributes to that squadron, and the size of the remaining squadron is reduced by the size of the lost ship. A single ship can group with other ships to form new squadron. It can be commanded separately, or the ship can act independently as deemed appropriate by the DM. For example, if a 9x9 squadron of 3 galleons, each 3x3, loses 1 ship, the size of the squadron is reduced to 6x6. Ships in tight formation, when more than 10 squares of ship occupy the same space, right? So looking at the 5-foot scale here, 10 by 10, and this is how many goblin arrows you can cram into that 10 by 10 space. They are grouped into multiple squadrons in a tight formation. So example, the illustration below depicts 9 arrow craft occupying a 50-foot square, each ship occupying a 3x3 space. These ships can be grouped into 3 separate squadrons, each occupying a total of 9 squares. Each occupying a total of 9 squares each. So 9 squares, 9 squares, 9 squares, and they all are operating together inside of the same 500-foot space, right? Or 50-foot space. The illustration below depicts 4 star moths occupying a 500-foot square. Each ship occupies a 4x4 space. These ships can be grouped into 2 separate squadrons, each occupying a total of 8 squares each. While in a tight formation, squadrons can be commanded separately or together as detailed in the fleet section below. So just the space, the space they occupy defines the size of a squadron, but then obviously here you can operate multiple squadrons as a fleet, and then if you can compress them all into 1 square, they're going to be able to basically operate as a single square fleet. That's basically what we're doing here. Hopefully this stuff is reading clearly. Squadron properties. So we had ship properties up above for craft and vessels as well. And now that we're grouping them together, we have to look at the properties, because kind of like when your character is a pilot of a ship, it's as though you're basically like wild shaping into that ship. But when you're commanding a squadron of ships, you're basically wild shaping yourself into that group of ships to operate as a single entity. Kind of like if I had a bunch of siege, like if I had 1 squadron of ships that had ballistas and another squadron of ships that had mangonels. These are 2 different types of siege weapons, right? That would almost be kind of like your fighters carrying a sword and a hammer. I have 2 different attacks that I can make, and I could be attacking with the sword or I could be attacking with the hammer, but they're each taking attacks. With the squadron commandings, I could have you attack with both the sword and the hammer at the same time as a double strike, but it's going to the reload score on that's going to be huge. So you're most likely, if you have like a full barrage like that, you're probably going to have to spend time reloading weapons so that you can get everything prepared to make another barrage again. Or you can just grab that 1 weapon and I'm now going to command this ship, and that's the only ship I'm going to worry about. So now I have all these other ships that I'm leaving to other characters to command separately. And so you can break up your characters like amongst your team. You could have like 1 pilot on your ship, and then like if you have like 3 other characters on your team, all of them could be taking command of different ships or siege weapons on those ships, depending just on how you want to organize the information. So whatever your team finds most efficient over time. And obviously you're going to start off small with a single ship, and then like you gain some levels and you get familiar with operating that ship. Well, now maybe we have some fighter craft that we keep clipped to our ship, so we can now each operate our own ship separately, or we can have a squadron of ships with NPCs, and we're going to stay on our main ship where it's safer, and then issue commands to those NPCs to basically act as mobile turrets to be able to attack and engage and stuff. So you can expand and swap your action economy around at these different scales between fleets, squadrons, ships, and like fighter craft, just depending on what mechanics you decide to introduce into your game. And that's a good conversation to have, but it's designed to ease you into these larger and larger scales of conflict. So as you become more comfortable with how the system operates, you have the opportunity to like recruit and command entire fleets of ships to fight other fleets, to like take control of a crystal, take control of a sphere or like a system or whatever. So a lot of fun like that, like an Illithid armada against a swarm of Githyanki dragon riders, for instance. You can scale out that battle to attack with each other, and then have support ships for the Githyanki, like support crews with siege weapons and stuff like that, alongside the dragons that are flying independently. All those mechanics work inside here. So, squadron properties. Squadron properties follow the general rules as detailed in the Spelljamming Ships section above, with the following considerations. So it's basically ships are ships, but here's some extra rules because you're operating multiple ships. So air envelopes. Each ship in a squadron retains its own air envelope. Gravity planes. When ships are grouped into a squadron, the gravity planes of the ships all align. And we spent time last session talking about how to align gravity planes among ships. Like if you slide into the gravity plane and you're smaller than your ship, they can basically drag you as though they're like grappling and carrying you along in their gravity plane. Scuttling is when your gravity plane is at an obtuse angle from your target, and when you hit them, it forces their gravity to suddenly align with yours, and everybody on the ship gets thrown around inside of it, taking falling damage, potentially throwing people off the helm of their chair, losing focus, and scuttling the ship. So you can either peacefully align your gravity with another ship, or you can violently force another craft to realign with yours as part of a combat option. Kind of like toppling or like tripping somebody or pushing them. It's the same sort of idea, but at the ship level. So gravity planes automatically align all your ships in the same squadron into the same gravity plane so that you can effectively manage them as a single unit. They're all basically sharing gravity and basically using that locomotion and momentum together. As detailed in the squad. Okay, when ships are grouped into a squadron, the gravity planes of the ships align. If one or more ships in a squadron are scuttled, like we just talked about, remove them from the squadron as detailed in the squadron weapons section down below. So like if you can't align with the rest of your crew anymore and you've been thrown off course and shit and you have to recover, you can't operate with the rest of the squadron until you get reoriented and get your balance again to work alongside the rest of the ships. Squadrons that use a combination of major and minor helms can travel at the major spelljamming helm speed while the craft remain in the gravity planes of the group vessels. So we were talking about riding each other's gravity planes. So whoever has the strongest engine can pull the fastest speed. Otherwise, a squadron of ships with minor helms is limited to moving at a scale of 10 miles per square, traveling only 1,000,000 miles per day. While the major helms we already discussed above, obviously, has a maximum scale of 1,000 mile squares and can go 100 million miles per day. It's 100 times faster than fighter craft. So fighter craft will never catch a vessel in a straight up race, and a craft can never outrun a vessel because the vessels are just too big. They have just too much power behind them. That's why you have clouds of fighter craft that basically clip onto and hold onto a larger carrier ship. And once you get close enough in combat to be able to like within a mile or 10 miles of another ship, you can dispatch your fighter craft to start swarming jumping into their gravity plane and attacking that ship and basically riding their gravity plane as they try to get away from you. They're going to have to shake you off. Meanwhile, you've got the carrier ship in the background that's just going just firing heavy weapons at you. Well, I got this little cloud of fighter craft that are basically flying around and attacking crew, siege weapons, or just dealing light damage to the larger vessel. It's very much like Star Wars. Very, very similar to like X-wings and B-wings and A-wings attacking like a Star Destroyer. It's like this little cloud of fighter craft that are just harassing the fuck out of their weapons, their missile systems, their shield systems, or eventually like taking out the deck, blowing up the bridge. It's like an A-wing fighter flying into the bridge and blowing it up. Meanwhile, like you have the Carillion hammerhead ships that are large enough just to ram into and actually push over a Star Destroyer, right? And like can actually like scuttle a Star Destroyer because they're just that they have these massive bludgeoning rams. They just ram into the side of the ship. Like all this shit is heavily inspired by actual like Star Wars combat footage, as well as Battlestar Galactica. Like that was the major inspiration. For the most part, Star Trek uses vessels with very little fighter craft. Sometimes they'll run across an alien race that has fighter craft, but for the most part, it's vessels versus vessels, because they all have just like larger ships. But yeah, so there you go. Dogfighting, super fun. Squadrons can move 5 squares using the same rules as piloting ships detailed in the pilot rules section above, and individual ships can move at any available speed in the squadron square as part of. So you can just basically move yourself around inside your own square as part of that movement. The scale and number of squares moved each round is determined by the squadron commander. You're the one that decides to move the squadron, and like at the 500-foot scale, it's basically 1 square. So it basically acts as though your character is like moving 5-foot squares, and your movement speed is effectively like 25 feet or 5 squares. But that could be anywhere from 5 feet movement of a super slow drift, or it can be 1,000 miles per square. So it just depends on what scale you're operating at and what kind of a ship combat are you depicting. Hey, what's up? Hey, how would you create rules for putting teleportation circle on a Spelljammer? I'm wanting to give my wizard Spelljammer tower basically a Star Trek. Yeah, you can just totally do that. Just use the Bastion rules for teleportation, for the teleportation facility. And it'll give you, that would be a teleportation circle that would be able to go to any destinations that you know. And if you wanted to do a teleportation thing, I would probably recommend just using just a basic teleportation spell. If the way that I have the Bastion campaign system, if you look up in my live links in my playlists, the Bastion campaign system, one of the teleportation facility basically allows you to cast teleportation once per day. You could obviously dump spell points into doing it more often, but I think you can carry like 9 people with you in a typical teleportation. Maybe it's 7 characters in a teleportation spell. So if you just decided that it was fair for your ship, even though you're not like 13th level or whatever, if it's fair for you to have a teleportation circle installed onto your ship, it just occupies a 10 by 10 space, and you can just basically have that under deck or somewhere inside. And just that, there you go. It's if you burn a 5th level spell slot, you can use that teleportation circle to teleport as much as you want. I like with the amplification rules, we allow you to basically blend character spell levels. So in this instance, it would be like if you wanted to use your teleportation circle to go to a destination, I think it's a 7th level spell you would have to spend. So like you could spend like 3 2nd level spell slots and a 1st level spell slot to power the teleportation circle to send you down. But you need to make sure that you have enough resources to get your team back. Or you could use a Word of Recall spell and set the teleportation chamber as your hallowed space, so that you could always use a Word of Recall 4th level spell to beam back aboard your ship. So there's a number of different ways you can do it, but I think those are all viable. And all those basic ideas are inside of here. And that leans into, like, I didn't have a specific rule about that, but knowing how the system works, you can make that ruling for yourself And if you and the DM agree that's a cool idea, you're now using away teams and teleportation effects to beam onto other people's decks, or to beam down onto the planet. It becomes really flexible for you to use, but it's very simple mechanics to implement. If that makes sense. Yeah. Super simple. Squadron. We're talking about squadron movement. We already resolved that. Squadron statistics. So squadron statistics follow the general rules detailed in the Spelljammer ship section up above with the following considerations. So hit points, right? Each ship retains its individual hit points. When a ship drops to 0 hit points, you remove it from the squadron as detailed above. Taking damage from attacks. When a squadron takes damage from a ranged attack outside the square it occupies, the commander can choose to take damage for the squadron, similar to a pilot taking damage for a ship. The commander then chooses how many ships are damaged up to the number of ships or creatures attacking, and how much of the remaining damage is distributed to each chosen ship. The damage dealt to each ship is then reduced by the amount listed for the materials the ship and squadron made from, and a ship can't be reduced to less than 0 hit points. So, for example, of course we provide examples. You have to have examples. It's all technical. For example, if 3 ships are attacking a squadron of 4 ships, any damage not taken by the commander can be distributed to no more than 3 ships in a squadron. So we got 3. This is basically being taken from Light of Zaraxis, the asteroid battle that we were talking about, the Night Spider with its 3 fighter craft. So I only have 3 ships in my squadron, which means I can only effectively target 3 separate ships if I'm not occupying the same space. And if you're taking damage from area, and so like if I were to attack with my squadron and did 200 points of damage, I could then, like, my Nyogi Taskmaster could say, well, this one's going to take 20 damage, this one's going to take 20 damage, this one's going to take 20 damage. What was it, 200 damage? That leaves 140 damage left for this ship to take. And I'm going to have the pilot of the ship take 30 of that damage, killing them. And then I'm going to grab a new slave and make them the pilot. So we're only going to take 110 damage, and since I'm using metal, the damage that the actual ship takes is reduced by 20. So I'm going to take 90 points of damage, and now I need to start repairing my ship during this battle. Or I could just decide to let this guy get blipped, this guy get blipped, and this guy get blipped for 80 points of damage each, and I'm not going to take any damage, but only one of my fighter craft, because these can each take 80 damage, because that's how much damage a Spiderling can take. So if I'm only dealing 200 points of damage across these ships together, he could take 80, he could take 80, destroying both of those, and this one only taking 40 points of damage and still functioning, and my Night Spider selfishly hasn't taken any damage yet. So now you get to decide what your NPCs, how selfish are they? Are they willing to take damage for the ships? Are they willing to sacrifice people to take damage for the ships? Are they willing to sacrifice other ships to protect their carrier? Is the carrier willing to take the brunt of damage? And like if you have like a Twilight Cleric on your ship that's providing temporary hit points, that cleric can be providing temporary hit points to the pilot. So the pilot's taking damage, it's coming off of your temporary hit point total, and then as part of your bonus action next turn, your supporting Twilight Cleric just gives you another like 30 hit points. Here you go, because you're just going to get taken away in a minute. So like the Twilight Cleric, which ironically really fits the space theme, is a fantastic subclass to use in this because of the amount of damage that they can heap upon your team. So if you're dealing with a heavy combat, you might want to consider having 2 people like Han and Chewie working together to co-pilot the ship together, so there's more hit points between the 2 of you to be able to tank damage for the ship, especially if you have a means of restoring temporary hit points, or like Warding Bond is a spell that's active, giving you resistance to any damage that you're going to take. You can like take 40 points of damage from a ballista hit for your ship, reduce the damage by like say 15 because of the material that you're using. The ship's going to take 5 points of damage and you're going to take 20 points of damage, but the Warding Bond reduces it down to 10. And if your Warding Bond is like say coming from a Twilight Cleric who just gave you 13 temporary hit points, you now have 3 temporary hit points left and no one's really taking any damage. So like it's a little number crunchy, but we're dealing with fleets of ships and large vessels. So like it's basically allowing your characters, straighten that out, thank you. It's basically allowing like your first, third, fifth level characters to be able to punching at weight classes, which are effectively like 13th, 15th levels in the amount of damage that they can take this way. It takes a little getting used to, but you want to ease into it like a single ship and then adding in more ships and just work your way up in scale. And the more you decide to make combat the focus of your game, naturally, the more you're going to focus around spells and abilities that are going to let you deal a lot, take a lot more damage to protect your ship more. But like a really big ship for really low characters, that ship is going to take the damage. And as your characters gain levels and get into 3 digits worth of hit points, they're going to have as many hit points as the ship itself. So they can afford to take the damage from these attacks that are coming in to protect the ship with their own personal life force while they're piloting. So, and the squadron commander uses their life force to protect the squadrons that they're in command of. And then we have taking damage from areas of effect. So when a squadron is damaged by an area of effect, choose how much damage the commander takes. The remaining damage is then dealt to each ship within the area, which is reduced according to the materials each time. For example, the illustration below, here's an illustration below. We got 4 star moths, right? For example, the illustration below depicts 4 ships in a squadron, taking 110 damage from a meteor swarm. I should actually update this. Hey, we found our first revision, page 38. Page 38, left column, depicts 4 ships. Four ships in a, this should actually say fleet, because this is too many. This is 8 squares, that's 16 squares total. That can't be in a single squadron. This is 2 squadrons. So that's a subtle thing, but again, the consistency is important. So having said that, for example, the illustrations below depict 4 ships in a squadron. When a squadron is damaged by an area of effect, choose how much damage the commander takes. The remaining damage is dealt to each ship within the area, which is reduced according to the materials of each ship. Maybe instead, I should make this 2 ships. 4 ships in a fleet. Let's reduce the illustration to 2 star moths to remain accurate as a single squadron. It's actually a very minor point. You probably get the gist of it anyway, but it is inaccurate and I need to improve that. So for example, the illustration below depicts ships in a squadron taking 110 damage from a meteor swarm. The commander chooses to take 30 points for the squadron. The remaining 80 points of damage is dealt to each of the 4 ships before reducing the damage. So to each of the 2 ships. See, you get the gist of it, right? But technically it's a flaw and I need to fix it. Question. Let me squeeze this in here. When he gets to the tower, it has no weapons, and he is the only crew member. I plan for him to get a crew of apprentices and maybe even a few... Hey, super fun. That'll work out well, man. That's awesome. Squadron materials. So a squadron has the following general statistics of materials unless all ships are light and heavy. Ability checks and saving throws. A squadron without a commander adds a bonus of... a squadron without a commander adds a bonus to the rolls of ability checks and saving throws equal to the crew rank. The commander can use their own ability score bonuses instead if they're higher. Armor class. Again, if it's heavy or light material, we already have listed above that there's like specific, like the damage reduction for heavy material is 20. The damage reduction for light material is like, say, 10 if it's a vessel. Armor class. A squadron has an armor class of 15 plus crew rank. Like the armor class of heavy material is automatically 20. and it's just a flat. It's like heavy plate armor. It's just an armor class of 20. There you go. A squadron has an armor class, and if your ships aren't all using heavy armor plating, then you're going to use this rule, which is a squadron has an armor class of 15 plus crew rank, up to the rank of the commander. Without a commander, it has only an armor class of 15. Cargo and towing limits. Each ship maintains its own cargo limit, and you can combine all the towing limits of all the ships contributing to it. So like you could get like a 50-ton asteroid and have a few squadrons of like hammerhead ships drag that asteroid behind them, because all of those ships can combine their towing capacity together to haul that heavier thing. So like in Lattice Zaraxis, you could grab a 100-ton asteroid and basically drag it to Zaraxis and then unleash it and just have it slow roll and hit the Citadel, the Citadel of Light, and just deal massive falling damage. Like it'd be like effectively probably just eyeballing it like D10 times 1,000 damage. It's like you'd be able to take out basically anywhere that asteroid hit would automatically destroy all of the buildings at the 50-foot scale on the structure, but it wouldn't like break the structure in half. It was only 100 tons, and like the Citadel of Light, it's a mile in size. It's hundreds, if not thousands of tons. It's probably like thousands of 10,000s of tons. So a 100-ton asteroid wouldn't destroy the Citadel of Light, but if it was a direct hit on the tower, like the actual like Temple of Light, that only has I think like 30,000 hit points. So if you actually hit the temple with a 100-ton asteroid, you effectively would deal like D10 times 10,000. You could potentially smash the entire Citadel in one go, and that's going to break the connection to Zaraxis and cause the sun to explode, for instance. Warp core that basically acts as a constantly focus. Oh yeah, right on. That's cool. Can't fly a ship, but is able to hold the power. Oh, neat. Yeah. That works. That totally works. Nice. Damage reduction. Each ship reduces damage separately when they take damage, which we talked about above. And then the squadron crew. Squadron crews follow the general rules detailed in the section Siege Weapon Crews above, with the following considerations. So your crew rank. As detailed in the squadron statistics section above, the rank of the crew contributes to the armor class, ability checks, saving throws, and reload scores of the squadron. The rank of this crew also determines the damage die rolled when a squadron hits with an attack. So instead of worrying about each individual weapon attack, you can just take what's the crew rank and their ability to, like, how proficient are they at siege combat. That will then determine what type of die they roll. So a third rank crew is effectively attacking as though they're basically, they have the strength of a trebuchet, for instance, as opposed to, like, it could be like, say, 4 ballistas on the deck of that ship. So instead of rolling each attack separately or doing group attacks with 4d4, you could have them all just make a single attack, which would be less. It would only be d8 damage times 10, but it would also be a hell of a lot easier to reload instead of having to worry about managing 4 separate siege weapons at the same time that are doing, say, d4 or d6 each. Number of crewmates. For a ship to contribute to the size of a squadron, there must be enough creatures aboard to communicate with the commander and to pilot the ship. To contribute to attacks, there must be enough creatures to crew any weapons used during combat. And so you can, there you go. So, squadron weapons. So getting into what page are we on now? Page 39. Hey, we're making progress. Squadron weapons. So ships that contribute to a squadron attack coordinate their actions together, similar to siege crews as detailed in the ship rules section above. While the damage and reload scores of a squadron are similar to attacking with multiple weapons, as detailed in the weapons and crew section above, with the following considerations. So just to go visit that again real quick, just to refresh our memories about how that operates. We scroll down here to the siege weapons. Beep, 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 beep. Here we go. So like a ballista, for instance. A ballista does D4. It does D4 times 10 piercing damage and has a reload score of 3. A first rank crew is going to drop that reload score to 2. So when I'm firing a ballista, I have to roll a 2 or better to automatically reload the ballista if I have at least 3 crew member. If I have less than 3 crew, the reload score increases for the number of people that are missing. So a first rank crew of three crewmen is able to reduce the reload score down to 2 from 3. If I was missing someone from that crew, like they got hit or something, whatever, then it's going to increase back to 3. If I only have 1 crew member at first rank operating the ballista, it'd be the crew is first rank, so it drops to 2, but I'm missing 2 people, so it would then go up to 4. So the reload score would then become 4. A third rank crew of 1 character would increase the score by 2 because I'm missing 2 people, but it would reduce the score by 3 because of the third rank. So the reload score would then become 2. And that's for an individual weapon. But if I want to fire if I have, say, 3 ballistas, and if I want to fire all 3 of them together, the reload score of 2 and 2 of them is a 4, 2, 2, and 2 is a 6. I would deal 3d4 damage because each siege weapon does d4 damage. So fire 3 ballistas, it's going to be 3 4-sided dice, 3d4 damage as a single attack roll for like overcoming damage resistance. So like firing a barrage of ballistas together is more effective than firing a single trebuchet. But the reload score is also going to be really high. And if I fail the reload score, if I don't roll at least a 6 or above on my proficiency die, my commander die, I have to spend action economy to reload each individual weapon. Reload command, reload command, reload command. Now all of them can fire again for that 3d4, and I better hit that d6, otherwise my whole team is going to be eating up their action economy reloading these damn weapons. So in that sense, squadrons, ships on a squadron act as though they are individual ships, individual siege weapons. So the more ships I have in a squadron, the higher the reload score is going to get. Siege weapon attacks and damage. A squadron of vessels that hits with a... hold on. Ships that contribute to a squadron attack can coordinate their actions together, similar to a siege cruise as detailed in the ship rolls above, using the command die. And while the damage and the reload scores of squadrons are similar to weapons with attacking with multiple weapons, like I just described. Vessels. When a squadron of vessels makes an attack, it can only target as siege weapons. The damage and reload score are determined by the type of weapons. The siege weapon attack and damage. A squadron of vessels. So like when a squadron of vessels makes an attack, it can only target as siege weapons. That means that I can only attack things that are larger than 50 feet in size. If it has any kind of, like if it's small and has cover, I can't attack it because it's too small to be able to target. Vessels are so big, you can't target an individual on a deck with 13 weapons on a broadside of a 200-foot ship. Siege weapon attacks and damage. A squadron of vessels that hits with a siege weapon attack roll, a number of damage dice equal to the number of 50-foot spaces occupied by the vessel, contributing to an attack up to 10. The reload score is equal to the number of 50-foot squares occupied by vessels, contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. I will have examples in a second. Mounted weapons and attack damage. A squadron of vessels that hits with mounted weapons, which are anti-personnel weapons. Attack rolls a number of siege damage dice equal to half the number of 50-foot squares occupied by the vessel, rounded down. The reload score is equal to the number of ships contributing to the attacks minus the crew. So, for example, and here we have a diagram. Here's 3 ships in a squadron. It's a total of 9 squares that they occupy. And it's a first-rank squadron, so a first-rank squadron of 3 space galleons occupy a 9x9 space in these squadron's 500-foot square. If each of the vessels contribute to a squadron siege weapon attack that hits, roll 9d4 times 10 damage. Because again, like we looked at the table up here, a first rank crew deals d4 damage. And there's 9 squares with a squadron, so it's 9d4 times 10 damage. There you go. And the reload score, since it's a A first-rank squadron of 3 space galleons occupy a 9x9 space. If each of the vessels contribute to the squadron's siege weapon attack that hits, roll 9d4 times 10, and the attack, the reload score is equal to the number of 50-foot squares spaces occupied by vessels contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. The reload score is equal to the number of 50-foot squares occupied by vessels contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. There we go. So 9, and the reload score is 9 minus rank. So first rank, it should be a reload score. If the vessel contributes to a squadron siege attack, the attack reload score, oh, that should be a reload score of 8, not 6. That's a typo. God damn. That's horrible. Page 39. Vessels reload score of is 8, not 6. If each of the vessels contributes to a mounted weapon attack that hits, roll 44 times 10 damage. It's half the squares, rounded down, 9. Reduce it to half. And then the reload score is equal to the number of ships contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. So first rank squadron, it should actually be 1, 2, 3 minus 1. That should actually be a reload score of 2. I can't believe I have errors here. And then, let's see, siege, reload score. I can't believe I have a fucking typo there. I'm going to have to update this very, very soon. Mounted reload score is 2. 9 minus rank is 8. Yeah, wow, that's really sloppy of me. Oh, I see what was happening there. The reload score is equal to the number of ships. The reload score is equal to the number of ships contributing to the attack minus the crew. The reload score is equal to the number of 50-foot squares occupied by vessels contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. Yeah, that is accurate. So this should be 8, and this should be 2. Wow, that's really bad. I am ashamed I made that mistake, but I'm glad we're doing this. I know what my intention was, is that this ship has a first rank crew, so it'd be 3 minus 1 equals 2, and 2 and 2 would be 6. That's why I have that there. And then 3 minus, and then each of the vessel contributed to the mounted attack hits. The reload score is equal to the number of ships contributing to the attack. This is still wrong. That should still be a 2. Craft. When a squadron, but that's okay. We're fixing it, right? So no one will know the wiser. When a squadron, I could actually go in and update this tonight with these rules as is, and just update these mechanics, because that's absolutely fucking wrong. I need to fix that right away. Because this reload score would be a reload score of 2, not 3. Not 1, right. Yeesh, that's bad, Kearney. Craft. Tracking individual weapon damage. The rules presented here reduce the complexity of attack and damage rolls during a game. The player and DM can track the range of each weapon, the amount and type of damage each deals, the reload score, and ammunition for each if the players and DMs choose. But we're just grouping them together to make it easy. You could track each weapon separately if you wanted to. When a squadron of craft make an attack, it can only target as siege weapons. The damage and reload score are determined by the type of weapons. A squadron of craft that hit with a siege weapon attack rolls a number of damage dice equal to the number of craft contributing to the attack. The siege weapon reload score is a squadron of craft that hits with a siege weapon attack rolls a number of damage dice equal to the number of craft contributing to the attack if they have siege weapons. The siege weapon reload score is equal to the number of 5-foot squares occupied by craft contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. We'll see if I got these right. And then the mounted weapon attack and damage. A squadron of craft that hit with mounted weapon attack roll a number of damage dice equal to half the number of 5-foot squares occupied by craft contributing to the attack, rounded down. The reload score is equal to the number of ships contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. The siege weapon reload score is equal to the number of 5-foot spaces occupied by craft contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. For example, third rank squadron of 2 skiffs occupy an 8x8 of 2 skiffs, right? Skiffs are 4x4 craft each. So a third rank crew of 2 skiffs occupy an 8x8 space in the squadron's 50-foot square. If both of the craft contribute to the squadron siege attack, it's 2 ships, so it's going to be 2d8. The d8 is coming from third rank, and the 2 is coming from 2 ships, 2d8 times 10 damage. The attack has a reload score of 7, and that is because the total squares occupied, a squadron of craft that hits the siege weapon reload score is equal to the number of 5-foot spaces occupied by craft contributing to the attack minus the rank. So it should be 5. 8 minus 3 should be 5. This is crazy that I have this wrong. Did I actually fix it? And I'm looking at like an older version because I'm like really embarrassed that I got this wrong, guys. Nope, it's fucking wrong. It's just wrong. Okay, well, I'm glad we're doing this. I should go in. I'm going to go in and fix this page tonight. And I'm going to update the document so the 2014 version is accurate. And yeah, so it's just not wrong. I'm going to, yeah. Whew, God, I feel bad about that. Jesus. Okay, so, and then the reload score, if both of the craft contribute to a squadron, it's half the squares. Half the number of 5-foot squares. Since it occupies 8 squares, it's 4d8. d8 is coming from the rank. And because the reload score is equal to the number of ships contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. This is actually accurate. 2 minus 1. Well, it can't be less than 1. So it's going to be a 1 minus the crew rank. And I should probably write in there a minimum of 1. The reload score is equal to the number of ships contributing to the attack minus the crew. Do I have space to write minimum 1? Oof, that's gonna be tight. Occupying the rank. The reload score is equal to. I can't if I get rid of this line break here, I can still make it fit in this space. Oh, sorry guys, I can't believe I have that typoed here. That's so horrible. I'll fix it. 2/3, that should be a 5. So this is page 39, right column. Page 39, right column. Siege reload score is 5, not 7. Easy enough. We can fix that. Easy enough. If that's the only mistake we have in here, God bless us. But that's really embarrassing that we had that mistake. Do I have a favorite Spelljammer story from a game you've played? It doesn't have to be combat related. I'm really focused on trying to get through this book material here, so I'd like to have that conversation. And if you catch me while I'm doing artwork in the morning, ask me that question, and I will answer that question for you. Or jump into my Discord channel, and I can tell you one. A squadron of vessels and craft can only attack targets as siege weapons. the number of damage dice rolled for siege weapon attacks is equal to, because you're going to occupy, a mixed squadron occupies a 500-foot square, so it's automatically going to be siege scale damage. So a squadron of vessels and craft can only attack targets as siege weapons because the ships are too big. The number of damage dice rolled for siege weapon attacks is equal to the number of 50-foot squares occupied by ships contributing to the attack, up to 10, while mounted weapons roll half, rounded down. The reload score is equal to the number of 50-foot squares occupied by the ships contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. So let's look at this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see if I got this right. The reload score is equal to the number of 50-foot squares, which is 7, minus the crew rank. Second rank, 7 should be a 5. Both attacks should have a reload scope. God damn it, I got that wrong too. That's embarrassing. Page 40, left, reload score is 5. Okay, well, now that we got through that embarrassing inaccuracy, we'll fix it. God, I'm really beating myself up over that. Okay, gonna let it go. We have a chance to fix it. Oops, I jumped. Let's get back to the squadrons. Squadron weapons, ammunition, properties. Cool. Please do. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I'll think of a good one. Ships that contribute to a squadron attack coordinate their actions together similar to siege crews as detailed in the ship rules section above. While the damage and reload scores of a squadron are similar to attacking with multiple weapons, as detailed in the so ships that contribute to a squadron attack coordinate their actions together, similar to siege crews as detailed in the ship rules section above. While the damage and reload scores of squadrons are similar to attacking with multiple weapons. I just went through this. Squadron ram attacks. Oh, here we are. Squadron, where are we trying to get? Squadron weapon properties, thank you. When weapon properties follow the general rules detailed in the weapons crew section above. With these following considerations. Melee squadron attacks. For a ship to contribute to a squadron melee attack, it must have an appropriate weapon to do so, because some ships don't have melee weapons. Melee squad, like a space galleon, doesn't automatically have a siege weapon, have a melee weapon unless you install one. While melee weapon, melee squadron's attack deal the same. It must have an appropriate weapon to do so. Melee squadrons attacks deal the same damage and have reload scores as detailed in the previous section above. While melee weapons don't require ammunition, coordinating ships to attack together is similar to siege weapon crews coordinating their attacks, actions to reload, aim, and fire. Squadron melee reach. So it doesn't matter if you're using a ranged weapon or melee weapon, you're still going to use reload scores to have the ships operate together as a single cohesive unit. Just like having crew of siege, like characters or creatures working together to operate a siege weapon. The reach of the melee squadron attack is determined by the space the squadron occupies in the map scale. At the 500-foot scale, melee weapons generally can't attack targets in an adjacent 500-foot square because you don't have a 500-foot reach with a 50-foot or 100-foot ship. At the 500-foot scale, melee weapons generally can't attack targets in an adjacent 500-foot square. The squadron can close distance at the 50 or 5-foot scale to attack individual targets within reach. At the 50-foot scale, siege melee weapons can choose which individual targets in a squadron to attack. that are within reach, while only ships 50 feet in size or larger can attack targets in an adjacent 50-foot square with mounted weapons. Because fighter craft are too small. If you're more than 50 feet away, they can't reach. Yeah, there you go. Ships smaller than 50 feet in size with mounted melee weapons can close distance to the 5-foot scale to attack individual targets within reach. At the 5-foot scale, any ship melee weapon can choose to attack. So you have to be, if you're in a vessel, you have to be in a vessel to attack something more than 50 feet away. If you're in a craft, you have to be at the 5-foot scale and within reach, because like a 20-foot craft has a 20-foot melee range. So we talked about that in the last session. And then anything at the 5-foot scale within 50 feet can attack. It doesn't matter. As detailed in the ship melee weapons section above, siege weapons contributing to the squadron melee attacks against targets 50 feet or smaller roll with disadvantage. Squadron grappling attacks. Only ships that are capable of grappling within reach of a target can contribute to a squadron grappling attack, and a target attempting to break free of a grappling squadron rolls against the pilot DC of the commander. The target's size limits the number of weapons that can simultaneously grapple, as detailed in the ship's grappling section above. When a mixed squadron of craft occupying at least two 50-foot squares grapples a vessel, each 50-foot space occupied is considered to be a single siege grappling weapon when determining how many weapons are grappling the vessel, while a squadron of craft occupying a single 50-foot space can only hold onto a vessel. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 fighter craft that are each occupying their own 50-foot square, and this is a vessel that occupies a 3x3 space. So it can only, so for example, a space galleon is a 3x3 vessel which can be grappled by up to 3 siege grappling weapons. If a squadron of 4 spiderling craft attack the galleon as a mixed squadron with piercing rams, up to 3 of the craft can grapple the ship as though they are a 3x3 vessel, while the 4th can attack separately as an individual craft, but can only hold on to the vessel. Although you can have a whole bunch of ships attacking, the ship itself limits how many weapons can effectively grapple it at the same time. And since this is a vessel, it's a larger scale than fighter craft. So the fighter craft operating as a squadron, that's 1 siege weapon, that's 1 siege weapon, that's 1 siege weapon. All 3 of them can grapple the ship. But fighter craft generally can only hold onto vessels. This ship is too small to slow this ship or to pull it, like to drag it. It's just too small. So fighter craft acting as a squadron can be considered a vessel, but in an individual fighter craft cannot effectively drag a vessel because the vessels are just too big. Squadron ram attacks. Squadrons can make ram attacks as detailed in the ramming section above, which we already went through in the previous session, but the attack doesn't benefit from the unique properties of bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing rams unless all the ships have that same type of attack. Vessels only contribute to siege ram attacks, while craft only contribute to mounted ram attacks. In a mixed squadron, the commander chooses whether a ram attack is made with siege or mounted weapons, as always. Bludgeoning. The number of damage dice rolled is double the sum of the spaces occupied by contributing ships. If all ships contributing to the ram attack have bludgeoning rams, the attack can automatically scuttle the target chosen by the attacking squadron commander if the attack hits as detailed in the ram section above and further detailed. So attacking with a squadron of ships against a single ship is going to cause that single ship to automatically get scuttled. Piercing rams, the number of damage dice rolled is doubled because you deal double damage when you make a ram attack, which means you have to move like 500 feet and then hit, and then you can deal the damage. If all ships contributing to the ram attack have piercing rams, then the attack can because like if I have 3 ships and only 2 of them have piercing rams, then I could make a piercing ram attack with those 2 ships. And the third one doesn't contribute because it can't pierce. It would just be generic ram damage, as we said here. It'd just be double the damage, and it doesn't get any unique bonuses. But if all the ships deal piercing, then if all the ships contributing to the ram attack have piercing rams, the attack can automatically grapple the target chosen by the attacking squadron commander, as detailed in the grappling section above. So attacking with a squadron is going to let you automatically pierce a ship because you just hit it with a bunch of ships that can stab it. If the attacking squadron has more ships that can grapple the target, the attacking commander determines which of the ships in the squadron are grappling the target. If the ships in the squadron have more than 1 grappling weapon each, only 1 weapon per ship can grapple the target during the attack. Each ship can be commanded individually to attack with additional piercing rams if you wanted to attack with more ships. When a ship attempting to break free from a grapple, roll against the squadron commander's DC. So it automatically grapples, but it's just a single grapple check to break free. If multiple ships in the same squadron are grappled, the squadron commander can choose to use attacks and bonus actions for each grappled ship, or the commander can attempt to break the grapple of all affected ships, but you're going to roll with disadvantage. Slashing. The number of damage dice is tripled because slashing ram doesn't do anything special other than just deal stupid amounts of damage. And if your ship doesn't have any rams and you decide to ram anyway, ships without rams can contribute to a ramming attack, dealing a number of damage dice equal to the sum of the spaces occupied by the ship, but the ship takes an equal amount of damage. For example, if a 4x4 cuttlefish craft with 3rd rank crew contributes to a squadron ram attack, the ship deals 4d8 bludgeoning damage and takes the same amount, minus the 5 damage reduction because of the ship. Because scuttles, the scuttlefish doesn't have piercing rams. It has tentacles that it can attack with, but those tentacles aren't piercing rams like a squid ship has like that massive spike on the front of its prow. That is a piercing ram. Scuttling. When a squadron melee attack hits 1 or more targets, the commander can use a single bonus action to attempt scuttling any number of those ships, as detailed in the ship melee weapons section above. The target roll against is a DC 15 or the pilot DC of the commander, whichever is higher. To determine if the save is rolled with advantage or disadvantage, compare the current number of hit points. Bigger ships roll with advantage. And the way you determine if a ship is bigger or not is the number of hit points that they have. So you could have like a really big ship that's only down to like 20 hit points versus a 200-foot ship with only 50 hit points versus a 100-foot ship with 75 hit points. That 50 hit point ship is going to roll at disadvantage because it's taken so much structural damage that it's weaker than the 75 hit point ship. So it's going to roll at disadvantage. If multiple ships in a squadron are scuttled, the commander of the targeted ship can save for each ship separately with advantage or disadvantage as normal, or the commander can make a single save without advantage or disadvantage to nullify the differences in hit points to just make a single roll. If the save succeeds, none of the ships are affected. If the save fails, all ships are scuttled and removed from the squadron until they can rejoin the squadron. If 1 or more ships in a squadron are scuttled, they're removed from the squadron, as we looked at above. As detailed in the ship rules section, the help focus and help reload support actions can target each scuttled ship separately. Each can rejoin the squadron as part of this action. Alternatively, each can be commanded separately, or they can act independently as the DM chooses. So if your ship gets scuttled, it has to reload. There you go. So if I have 3 ships in my squadron got scuttled, I have to use 3 separate reload scores to get all those ships back in alignment. Targeting ships in overlapping spaces. When ranged weapon attacks target a squadron from outside the space it occupies, We looked at this before. When you're targeting squares from, when you're targeting ships outside of the space that you occupy, the target commander chooses which ships take damage. To target a specific ship in a squadron, you have to move fully or partially occupy space in the same square as the target squadron. Vessels in single craft in a mixed squadron can be attacked individually within the 500-foot square, and craft can be attacked individually within the same 50-foot square the squadron occupies. Because fighter craft are really small, you have to be really close to them to target them separately. At the 50 and 5-foot scale, any ship can target any ship. For example, the illustration to the right over here, see, we've got a 10 by 10 space here of these star moths, and then we've got this 10 by 10 square here of these scorpions, and they're overlapping by 6 squares, right? For example, the illustration to the right depicts a squadron of star moths. I should actually reduce this so it's accurate. 42. Another change, page 42, right. Change the number of ships in the illustration to accurately depict a squadron. A squadron of star moths, which is A, here. Adjacent to a squadron of scorpion ships, B, this 10-foot square, or this 10 square space. So the Squadron A is adjacent to Squadron B. When a star moth moves forward to partially occupy space within the Scorpion Squadron, C, it can make ranged attacks against any Scorpion ship, and the squadron of Scorpion ships can attack the star moth separately. Similarly, each Scorpion ship in the overlapping space, D, these ships here, 1, 2, 3, similarly, each Scorpion ship in the overlapping space D can contribute to ranged attacks targeting any individual star moth, and the star moth squadron can attack any of these Scorpion ships individually because they're occupying the space. If I'm not occupying your space, I can't attack. I can't choose which ship takes damage. I have to close distance to be close enough to distinguish each target separately in that squadron. I realize these are highly technical rules, but once you grok them, you can just kind of, it's really easy just to kind of like depict it, like just to make it happen. Sorry. But it has to be technically detailed like this so that you know specifically how to make these things interact. And again, once you understand how the rules work, as a DM, you can just make a ruling. Yeah, there's 3 ships that are within range of each other, so you can attack that ship, for instance. Ranged squadron weapons. For a ship to contribute to a ranged squadron attack, it must have an appropriate weapon to do so. Squadron ram attacks. All right, those are the melee weapon attacks now. Now we are into the ranged squadron attacks. So for a ship to contribute to a ranged squadron attack, it must have an appropriate weapon to do so. Ranged squadron attacks deal the same damage and have reload scores, as we've already detailed inaccurately above. The crew aboard the ships of the squadrons all coordinate their actions similarly to commanding multiple ship siege weapon crews. If a squadron attacks, the range of the attacks can affect if a squadron attacks, the range of the attack can affect the attack roll. Squadrons with siege weapons typically have a normal range of 500 feet unless all attacking weapons have a greater range. And of course, long range is up to 1 mile away. Squadrons with mounted weapons typically have a normal range of 150 feet and a long range of 1 mile away. Squadrons ranged attacks made with both mounted and siege weapons against a target beyond 150 feet are rolled with disadvantage unless the commander orders only the ranged siege weapons to attack. See how that is? Because the siege weapons have a longer range than the mounted weapons, If I want to attack beyond 150 feet without disadvantage, I can only attack with the siege weapons. Squadrons making attacks with siege weapon rolls with disadvantage against targets 50. Squadrons that make attacks with siege weapons roll with disadvantage against targets 50 feet or smaller, which is a typical rule. Ammunition. The amount of ammunition spent during a squadron attack is equal to the number of dice rolled. So if I'm going to roll 8d8 damage for these two star maws, I'm expending 8 pieces of ammunition. Now, fleets. While 2 or more squadrons under the same command remain adjacent to 1 or more allied squadrons, they can be grouped together into a fleet similar to ships grouped together as squadrons. The illustrations below depict the number of squadrons in each fleet. So there's 5 ships that are adjacent to each other. So it's a fleet of 5 squadrons. There's 1, 2, 3. These are all in adjacent squares to each other. So that means there's 3 ships in this. There's 3 squadrons in this fleet. There's 2 in this one, and you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all touching at least one other. So there's 5. When 2 or more squadrons under the same command remain adjacent to 1 or more allied squadrons, they can be grouped together into a fleet, similar to ships grouped together as a squadron. There you go. Removing squadrons from a fleet. If 1 or more squadrons leave a square adjacent to another squadron in the fleet, they must be commanded separately until they are adjacent and grouped again. If a fleet is reduced to 1 squadron, it can move to an adjacent square and join other squadrons as a verbal command. It can be commanded as a single squadron, or the squadron acts independently as the DM chooses. So I can either group it with another squadron to make a new fleet, or I can just command it as a single squadron as a squadron command, or the DM can take command of them and command them separately as its own fleet. For example, if a fleet of 5 squadrons is separated into 2 fleets of 3 and 2 squadrons each, the fleet can be commanded separately. The fleets can be commanded separately, or one fleet can move to one adjacent square and then join the other as 5 squadrons. And then simplifying damage dice. When multiple weapons, ships, and squadrons attack together, the players and DMs can simplify the damage dice by rolling once and multiplying the damage. For example, instead of rolling 6d10 times 10 damage for 6 separate squadrons, I could instead roll d6 times 100 damage, because it's all the same. Fleet properties. Fleet properties follow the general rules as detailed in the Squadron Properties section above, with the following exceptions. Fleets and gravity planes. This is going to sound familiar. Fleets and gravity planes. When a fleet is formed, the gravity planes of the squadrons all align. If 1 or more squadrons in a fleet are scuttled, they are removed from the fleet. The help focus and help reload support actions, as detailed in the ship roles section above, can target each scuttled squadron separately to join the fleet. Otherwise, they can be commanded separately or act independently. Fleet movement. When you command a fleet to move, all squadrons move the same distance in the same direction together, up to 5 squares. Each squadron in a fleet remains in a fixed position relative to other squadrons they are adjacent to, and the fleet can surge during movement while remaining in formation that way. And we talked about surging before, which is like at the 500-foot scale, I can move 1 square, which is the same as moving 10 squares at the 50-foot scale. That's at the 50-foot scale, that'd be called surging, to distinguish the difference. Individual squadrons can change position in the fleet to any square adjacent to another squadron as part of the fleet movement action. Each square of movement, again, this is highly technical, but once you grok it, you don't have to really worry about it. Each square of movement taken by a single squadron to change position in the fleet, this way does count towards the 5 squares of fleet movement. And surging cannot be used to increase the amount of squares an individual squadron moves relative to other ships. If a squadron moves to a square that is not adjacent to any squadron in the fleet, it is removed from that fleet. And any remaining movement can be used by the fleet or the separated squadron, but not both. So if I've got 5 squares of movement, I move what you'll see here. For example, in the illustration to the right, a fleet of 5 squadrons is moving through an asteroid field. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squadrons. Using 1 square of movement, the fleet surges forward 2,000 feet to a narrow gap between 2 asteroids. So here we're looking at 1 square of movement to surge up to 10 squares. And in this instance, A is showing that we've got 4. Here we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we can have 3. We got 3 from here to here. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 squares. Number 2 goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that 2 goes to 10. And then 1 would also be able to move 1 square. Using 1 square of movement, the fleet surges forward 2,000 feet to narrow a gap between 2 asteroids, A. That's the surge movement, which counts as 1 square because surging. And then, hey, what's going on, Adam? We spelljamming, yeah, my man. We're just doing a walkthrough of the mechanics. I found some typos and some math errors I need to fucking fix. But otherwise, we're just going through the system and making sure everything else is reading correctly. So we get 5 squares of movement normally. So surging allows us to move 10 squares in one direction without turning. So that's A. And then using 3 squares of movement, squadrons 1, 3, and 5 move 1 square each to new adjacent positions. So we've got 2, 3, 2 and 3, and we got 1, it moves in row here. So it was 1 square to get to this position, and then 1 square, and then 4 moves in alignment above number 3. That's another square. And then because we have to, if they don't all move together in the same formation, you then have to use extra squares of movement to rearrange them into new positions. So 1 moves down here, that's 1 square. 4 moves in front of 3 here, that's 1 square. And then 5 moves in front of where 4 is at, that's 1 square. So 1, 2, 3, all of the moves as 1, and then each individual squadron was moved as 1 square. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. And then the remaining with the remaining square of movement, the fleet surges forward together through the gap. I can't move all these ships through this gap in that formation. So I have to change the formation of the squadron so that they can all move through the gap together. There you go. That's all we're trying to explain there. It's very technical and wordy, I know. But once you understand how that works, then you can navigate narrow spaces with multiple ships together at the same time and have their movement make sense. It's really nice that you can scale movement from the 5-foot scale, 50-foot, 500, 1 mile, 10 mile, or potentially more scales. It helps you be able to break up that movement economy that way. Very specific, very fiddly. But again, we're devising a way for us to be able to use the 5-foot scale combat grid at 50-foot, 500-foot, 1 mile, etc. scales. So you're going to get fiddly shit like this. And when you're operating multiple ships together at the same time, you have to be fiddly about, well, how do I move this individual ship in that squadron? Well, you're going to have to use specific action economy to order that ship to move. So this is laying down all those rules. And again, once you understand how those rules work, you can largely just disintegrate the technical bits of it and work like with theater of the mind, for instance. I'm going to have the squadron wing around this corner and then push through that square. And I'm going to, if it's not obvious they can do it, I'm going to use the dash action to be able to clean up all the action economy and move through it. Depending on how fanatical you want to get about square movements. Fleet statistics. So fleet statistics follow the general rules as detailed in Squadron statistics, which is a generalization of multiple ships acting as a single unit. Fleets are multiple squadron is multiple ships working together as a single unit. A fleet is multiple squadrons working together as a single unit, as long as they remain in fixed positions relative to each other. Hit points. Each ship grouped in squadrons within a fleet retains separate hit points. When a squadron in a fleet is attacked, the commander can choose to take any amount of the damage from the fleets for the ships as detailed in the taking damage section above. If there are multiple attacks targeting different squadrons, the commander can do so for each squadron hit during the attack as well. When determining the Constitution saving throw DC to maintain focus from damage taken, half the sum of damage taken for all squadrons. For example, if a squadron takes 20 points of damage from each of the 3 squadrons targeting a fleet, the sum is 60 damage and the DC is 30. 20 points of damage per squadron. We're going to deal 60 damage to the fleet. I'm going to take 60 damage for all those squadrons. Half that damage is DC 30. We actually need the cap in 5th edition 2024. The cap is DC 30. So page 43, right hand column. Let's see. Concentration DC cap of 30. There you go. That's one of those little technical bits. Taken from all squadrons up to DC 30. Fleet weapons follow the same general rules as squadron weapons. Fleet attacks. Each squadron in a fleet occupies with the following considerations. So fleet attacks. Each squadron in a fleet occupies a separate 500-foot square. Similar to how entering the space of a squadron allows you to target individual ships, you can target individual squadrons in a fleet that are within range. If there are multiple squadrons you can target in a fleet, each target requires a separate action to attack. When a squadron is hit, the commander can choose how much damage each ship takes. When you have like 3 ships in a squadron and you take damage, you could have all the damage heap onto one ship, or you could have each ship take equal amount of damage. You could break it up however you want, but the defender chooses. Similarly, when I have multiple squadrons, I can choose which squadron gets hit and then how much damage each ship in that squadron takes damage. Fleet melee reach. Ships in a fleet making a melee attack has the same reach as detailed in melee squadron attacks. All vessels and any craft larger than 25 feet can attack individual targets within reach at the 50-foot scale. All craft can attack individual targets within reach at the 5-foot scale because they're super close. Ships in a fleet that are within melee reach can contribute to melee attacks as a separate command from the rest of the fleet. For example, in the illustration below, a fleet of star moths. Here we are, a fleet of star moths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 squadrons. Is adjacent to a fleet of scorpion ships. And we can see here a bunch of scorpions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10 scorpion ships, 2 separate squadrons and separate squares. 10 by 10 space is the space that a squadron occupies. 10 by 10, the space a squadron occupies. 10 by 10, the space a squadron occupies. 10 by 10, the space that a squadron occupies. So, for example, in the illustration below, a fleet of star moths is adjacent to a fleet of scorpion ships. Only one star moth, number C, is within melee reach of any of these scorpion ships, and it's within reach of 3 scorpion ships. This star moth can be commanded separately to take. This star moth can be commanded separately to make melee attacks, while the entire fleet can make ranged attacks against the squadron of scorpion ships. So only this ship can attack. Only these 4 ships here can actually engage each other in melee combat. Although I have like say 2 star moths here, which could do like say 8d8 times 10 damage as a ranged attack, since this is just a 4x4 space that this star moth occupies, it would have to make an individual attack against each of these ships separately as a separate attack order. So like a 13th level fighter could issue has enough action economy, has enough attacks. An 11th level fighter has 3 attacks as the attack action. So I could like attack this one, attack this one, attack this one. Because it's a 4x4 craft, it would do, say, as a 3rd rank crew, 4d8 damage to this one, and then make a separate attack, 48 damage this one, and then a separate attack, 48 damage this one, times 10. Fleet weapon damage, similar to attacking with multiple siege weapons. See, so you have the siege weapon attacks and the individual ship, and then we have the squadron having multiple ships attack as a group, and then the fleet is having multiple squadrons attack as a fleet. So it keeps increasing the scale and number of ships that are attacking together as a unit. So fleet weapon damage, similar to attacking with multiple siege weapons. When multiple squadrons hit a target, roll damage for all contributing squadrons together. For example, when making an attack with a fleet of 1 squadron dealing 5d6 times 10 damage, and another squadron dealing 7d4 times 10 damage, sum the results of the 5d6 and 7d4 and then multiply that damage by 10 to determine the total damage dealt. Now, keeping in mind, like this has 400 hit points. 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 Doing that, what would that be? An average of 15. That'd be 150. And so that'd be like 300 damage. So like on average, 2 full squadrons would on average deal around 310 damage, which is enough for a single star moth to survive that volley on average. But I could also break up that damage across all the different ships. So like you take 80, you take 80, you take 80, you take 80, and then I reduce it because the material damage reduction is like minus 10. So 70 damage, 70 damage, 70 damage, 70 damage. I could break those up because when I take damage, the defending commander, it sounds very complicated, but we're dealing with multiple ships attacking multiple targets at the same time. That's the kind of level of complexity that you get into, but it's consistent. So once you understand how this multiplier works, you can build your own fleets and squadrons and be able to suss out that damage. And again, the Light as Araxis example at the end of the book provides examples of how that works. Fleet reload scores. So similar to attacking with multiple siege weapons, when multiple squadrons contribute to an attack, add the reload score for each squadron and compare that to the die result. If the result is equal to or higher than the total score, the contributing squadrons automatically reload for the next attack as part of the attack action. Otherwise, the commander has to issue additional actions to reload each squadron separately. For example, in the fleet damage example above, a second ranked squadron dealing 5d6 times 10 damage has a reload score of 3. A first ranked squadron dealing 7d4 times 10 damage has a reload score of 6. First rank, it's 7 dice minus rank. I actually got these correct. So 5th rank minus second of 5 dice of damage minus second rank squadron equals a reload score of 3. So 3 plus 6 is a total reload score of 9. At 13th level, I have a D10 reload die. So I'd have to roll a 9 or a 10 on that D10 for these ships to automatically reload and fire again. This is a 13th level character in command of a squad of a bunch of ships. It's a high level campaign. That's the kind of damage you should be able to deal. You're dealing with fleets of ships if you want to at that scale. But like a third level character is only going to roll a D4. It's impossible for me to hit that reload score. So I'm going to have to issue a separate command to reload this squadron and a separate command to reload this squadron. Fleets and tight formations. While a fleet of ships is typically grouped with one squadron for each 500-foot square. If multiple squadrons can fully occupy a single square together, you can command them in a tight formation, following the same rules as fleets in the following, following the same rules of fleets with the following considerations. So normally we wouldn't be able to have, and this is the same as the squadron mechanics above, but now we're dealing with all three of these acting as a single fleet, as a single unit. So for example, the illustration below depicts 3 squadrons of aerocrafts occupying a 50-foot square together. The lines indicate 2 options for grouping them while they remain in tight formation. So I could have 1, 2, 3, or I could group them as 1, 2, 3. It's kind of 6 or a half dozen, but that's your example. The illustration below depicts 2 squadrons of vessels occupying a 500-foot square together. The lines indicate 2 options for grouping them while they remain in tight formation. So these two could be these two, and these two could be a squadron, or these two and these two could be a squadron. Maybe that's overly specific, but again, you want to be very specific so you understand how it works, so you can just grok it. So you can just eyeball it in the future, so you understand how the mechanics work. Targeting squadrons in tight formations. When squadrons in tight formations are hit by an attack from outside the square, the commander determines which ships in each squadron takes damage. While the attacker is occupying the same square, and again, these are 50-foot squares. So like the Star Moth is 200 feet long. So this is at the 50-foot scale. This is a 500-foot square. At the 500, it'd be 1 square at the 500-foot scale, but we're looking at it at the 50-foot scale to distinguish one ship from another. If I'm attacking from outside of this square, I could depict all of this as a single 500-foot square with a single icon in it, like Squadron A, or it'd be like Fleet A or whatever. But if I actually want to attack each ship individually, I have to grind down and get close enough to be at the 50-foot scale so I could target like this ship specifically or this ship specifically. If I'm not actually inside this space, if I'm beyond this space, it's not up to me which ship will take damage. That fleet decides which ships take damage. It can distribute it amongst all the ships, or it could sacrifice one individual ship. It's up to whoever's running the ship and what kind of alignment they have. So targeting squadrons in tight formation. While the attacker is occupying the same square as the squadrons in tight formation, the attacker can choose which squadrons to attack, but the commander chooses which ships take damage as dealt in the squadron statistics. So there you go. And that's technically the end of squadron and fleet mechanics. It's very specific. It's very technical. It has to be, so that you can understand how multiple ships can operate and move together. And there's a lot of little caveat rules, like I'm moving all these ships together, but I want this one to fly a little bit extra. It's like, well, great. We have the rules for dividing up your commanding action to move. Like you get 5 squares of movement. You can have all of them move together and staying in formation, or you could have like 4 squares and then have this one move separately, for instance. Highly technical, but it's important. You have to it has to be technical so that the system will absorb how those rules work, so the DM and the players can decide how complicated they want it to be. The rules are here for it to be as complicated as you need it, but you could always back off in complexity to like theater of the mind, or use just individual tokens to represent entire squadrons or entire fleets if you want to, or you can really grind down into this nitty-gritty detail if you want to. And that's the end of fleets. And what time is it? It's 8 o'clock. So that's our time frame. We have maintaining ships and crew, making repairs. This is what, 1, 2, 3. You know what? I think I've said a lot tonight. That's a lot of information, and we have changes that we need to make that are important. So I'm going to go ahead and cut stream here. We're going to be back on Thursday, though. So when we come back on Thursday, we're going to work on maintaining crew and ships. And we'll probably get through that, no problem. It's only 3 pages. And then we can start looking at spellcasting. And so we'll work on spellcasting, and that is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages. So we're looking at potentially, and most of these are just examples of spells, like how to convert spells into larger scale. So I think we should not have much difficulty getting through the 6 pages of technical information and then going through the examples. That's what we'll do on Thursday night. I'm going to go ahead and cut stream here. I've got some updating to do. I'm going to fix the math on the reload scores for the squadrons that we found. I had some typos, so we need to fix those. I'm going to update that information specifically tonight and reload the document for people so that the information is accurate. So by the time anyone else sees this, like tomorrow morning, this should be accurate information. We're just going to update the math for 2014, and we'll start integrating the rest of this stuff. The full combat chapter will integrate all that stuff for the 2024 rules. Very little changes needing to be made right now for 2024. I suspect we're going to see some changes in the exploration chapter with like detection and stuff like that, using like the study action and shit like that. That's now part of the 5e 2.4 lexicon. But we're just going to deal with one thing at a time. So we're just going to keep working our way through the document, and we'll keep updating it. And once everything's been fully updated, we'll drop in the new 2024 document just with the text changes, and we'll be good to go. So that's it for now, guys. I'm going to get out of here. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. And I'll be back tomorrow morning to continue working on character art for the Eberron adventure that we're creating. And then we'll be back. I don't think I plan on doing any kind of a lunch stream tomorrow. Maybe I will. I've been looking at some changes for the martial power system that we've been playtesting on my Discord channel. It's the mana system for martial characters and the alternate like Book of Nine Swords magic system that we're updating for 5e 2.4 mechanics. There's some changes I want to implement to some of them. Maybe, I don't know if I'm going to have time tomorrow or not, but if I have time for lunch, I'll come on. We're going to start messing around with the martial powers. We're going to pick up maintaining crews and repairing ships. We're going to do that on Thursday night, and then we'll get through that mechanics, and we'll get into spellcasting Thursday night as well. And then that probably means by Monday, I suspect by Monday next week, that means we'll get done with all this, and we'll be in the exploration chapter. And we'll play with this chapter, and it might take 2 sessions. Actually, maybe not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 10 pages. I bet we can get done with this Monday next week. And then we'll get into, this is, I think, the most difficult part of this, is there's now a burning hazard in 5e24. And so I need to revamp the fire mechanics to implement, to make use of the burning rules. So I suspect this is going to be the most intense part of the updates, is updating the ship hazards. But because there's a lot of text that goes along with spreading fire and stuff like that. So once we get that sussed out, and then foul and deadly air shouldn't change. Infestation shouldn't have to change. Morale and mutiny shouldn't have to change. And then we'll get into wild storms. I think we'll probably by like mid-October, it'll probably take like another 6 sessions for us to get through all these mechanics and to update all the rules for 5e24, and then we'll have the book updated, and then we'll republish it. So anyone that's already bought the book or decides to buy the book now, once these rules are implemented and we update the document, you'll automatically be able to download the new updated version for you without having to pay any extra money. And then, since the 5e24 rules will have been updated, we can start building out the Spelljammer subclasses that we've been working on here, the 13 different Spelljamming subclasses that we've developed. And then we can start getting really, really serious about the monsters and machines, the mega kaiju, and the 50-foot or like 200-foot mecha. Basically using these mechanics. Once we have 5e24 locked down, we'll be able to really start fleshing out these rules, to start building out these books as well. I'm really looking forward to that. So this is stuff that we'll probably be playing with monsters and machines probably through the end of the year and get serious about like building the book in February. So yeah, man. Hey, what's going on, Captive? It's good to see you, my guy. Thanks a lot for lurking, guys. All of you guys, thanks a lot. I know the squadron and fleet stuff is pretty technical information, but again, you got to get really technical so that you can decide how deep into the weeds do you really want to get in your game. The rules need to be there to reinforce those rules, and the Spelljammer, like the mecha and the machines and stuff. This will all be reinforced by the rules that we're updating. So it's linked down here to take a look at it if you want. Here's the actual document. If you decide to purchase it, it has all the assets for Lada Zaraxis, for characters, creatures, the wild space systems in Lada Zaraxis, as well as all the tokens for like all the ships and the squadrons and the fleets and the Citadel of Light. All that stuff is here. I'll just brag at you here for a second, just to flip through this. Here's all the tokens that we created for the ships, as well as the characters: Captain Sartell, Flapjack, the thugs, and Traverse here, and the elves, the pilot, the minions, their plasmoid crew members, and then we have the fleet, the space dungeon for fighting the Theurgy after you explore the Nautiloid. Here's all the Theurgy fighter craft, the Theurgy commander, the human slaves operating the siege weapons aboard the Night Spider and the Spider and the Spiderling fighter craft. Here's the what is it called? Umber Hulks. Thank you. The Umber Hulks that are basically carried by the fighter, like the Spiderling fighter craft. They basically drop Umber Hulks on the deck of your ship to start terrorizing the weapon crew, so you can't attack them, while they have weapon crews on the back of their here, I'll show you the fighter craft here. You've got a ballista, and then you have two harpoon flingers. Harpoon flingers were in Descent into Avernus. And then you've got the actual like spider, like the Night Spider. It's got two mangonels. It's got two ballista, and it's got 4 harpoon flingers. Harpoon flingers, they only do 2d6 damage, but you can attack individual crew members or characters with them. Siege weapons are too big. You can only attack ships with siege weapons because of the size of the weapons. So if you want to take out crew members, you're going to want to either attack with harpoon flingers, or in the case of the Theurgy, they're going to just drop Umber Hulks on the deck of your ship to start doing melee combat at the 5-foot scale. So yeah, right on, man. Yeah. Amplified spells are super fun, so I'm really looking forward. There might be some changes to that. We'll find out. We'll find out on Thursday. And I've been updating all the rules in the document here. We've gotten through the first chapter. We've actually updated all the rules for 2024, and now that we've gotten through all the rules for the combat chapter, I can spend a little bit of time updating the math that I had wrong. I'll up that for 2014, but this weekend, I suspect on Saturday, I'll have enough time for me to be able to take all these revisions and implement those to be compliant with 2024. And then on Thursday, we'll work on crew, repair, and spellcasting. So that's probably me rambling enough, guys. Man, I really appreciate you guys all hanging out with me. I'm glad this I'm glad this resonates with people. I'm really proud to have people support. I know this long form, slow design isn't really what YouTube wants to push, and you got to be kind of a D&D geek to be into all this shit in the first place. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me, guys. I really appreciate you. Anyone that's skulking, that's new to the channel, I do this weekly, multiple times per week, plus artwork in the mornings, like all this type of artwork. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'd be thrilled if you want to stick around and be on board. So I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Bye, guys. Thank you.